The name of the game in Recon is to be light, fast, and mobile, tactically efficient, and there's always elements of strategic avoidance. And let's not forget, don't get caught. When is the time to do your recon? Before the event happens. Today, I'm gonna talk about the tools that I use when I'm out there doing my thing. And if that interests you,
yeah, stick around.
So yesterday I went to go do some recon because I live in a very unique area. There's a lot of city, there's a lot of urban, and there's also a lot of woodland environment here. And that presents a pretty unique challenge for me. If I was on the other side of the tracks, that would be very difficult for me to get across it. The thing is, I have training from FEMA, DHS, and NASAR, and I know exactly how they would lock this place down. And what would be a 15, 20-minute drive without traffic on foot, that's gonna take me probably 2 or 3 days because of that. So yesterday, I went out trying to search for another solution. And if y'all wanna see a video on that, I could probably put a video together of me actually doing my homework. So let me know in the comment section and maybe I'll throw one together for you. Today we're gonna focus on the gear that I actually use to do that. So let's just dive in. I'm not gonna, list anything in order of importance. I'm just gonna show you the tools that I use. This is my Terra Humara. Y'all have seen this in lots of videos. It's just a great small package and you can put a lot of stuff in here. And I like the fact that it's so small on my back. I can really move through brush and stuff like that. And it's just a great pack to have. You don't have to get the exact same pack, but having something of this size, I believe this is a 16-liter pack, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that. But for what I was doing yesterday, it's absolutely perfect. Now, before I get into any kind of specialty stuff, let's talk about just having the basics on you. I don't know what kind of area you live in, but your clothing is your first line of defense against the elements. So whatever you wear, it needs to fit into the environment that you're in. You need to be prepared for the worst possible condition for your area this time of year. Because I live in a unique area, that means that I have to go from urban to woodland environments. So that kind of negates me having camouflage on all the time. So I try to dress in drabs when I can so I can fit into the urban environment and then I can switch straight into a woodland environment. What I use for camouflage, I keep inside the pack. That way I can hide it when I'm in the city. They say that mobility is life and being able to move, that's really important. Having socks, taking care of your feet. Just ask any guy who's been in the military and they'll tell you how important this really is. The only thing that I wear is wool. These are darn toughs and I love these things. Now, if you're gonna be moving a lot, having water on you is gonna be really important, but you also need to be able to replenish that. You need to be able to filter and purify and carry your water. Now, depending on where you live at, you may need more or less of this. That's up to you. Where do you live? Carry what you need. Another thing that you're gonna need is to replace the calories that you're burning while you're doing this. So I like to have things like jerky, nuts, even carbohydrates on me, and some simple sugars. Try to keep it as balanced as you can. And I like to have stuff that I can eat on the run that I don't have to prepare over any kind of fire or a stove. And make sure that you pack out whatever you pack in. Now, I would consider those to be the very basics. That's the minimum of what you're actually gonna need. In this case, I'm not really worried too much about shelter and all the things that you would carry in like a go bag or a bug out bag. In this case, we're moving a lot. And as long as I'm dressed properly, I really don't need to carry a shelter. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't carry a shelter element with me. And here's where we get into, I guess, some of the fancy or the specialty stuff that I use. So my first thing that I would consider specialty, this is my Tacticloak. I'm really grateful to Nick over at Rhino and Ravens for giving this to me. This thing not only serves as, protection from wind, rain, snow, etc., the elements, it also has thermal mitigation properties. Now, it's not gonna do it for an extended period of time, but if we're talking about drones or a small unit that has thermals, this is really going to help. I do realize that not everybody can afford one of these, and believe me, I'm really grateful to have this, but this thing would come in clutch if you really needed it. Not to mention that it's multicam, which is the perfect pattern for the area that I'm in. Now, let's say that you live in the city, maybe for your rain protection, you've got an umbrella or you're just wearing a rain suit. Camouflage is gonna be something that you will have to make your own decision on. It really depends on the area that you're in. If you're in the deep south, if you're not wearing camouflage, then you become a target. But depending on what area you live in, camouflage can be a good thing. Take this sniper veil, for example. Basically, between these two elements right here, I can disappear in the woods wherever I need to. And y'all have seen me lean up against a tree I don't know how many times before in the past. I mean, in this particular case, let's say I was doing that, that's exactly what I'm probably gonna do. I'm just gonna find some kind of hole to hole up in, and I'm just gonna get through it. Maybe for you, just having an emergency survival blanket that's military grade is perfect. And then there's the old faithful standby, the poncho. This is a lightweight, inexpensive option for you if you're just starting out. Let's get into the next thing, maps. Okay, with my background, I used to have, full-size maps like this one. These are really nice, but they can be a big pain in the butt. I mean, seriously, have you ever tried to, do some map work underneath your poncho? You have to end up folding this thing up, concentrating or focusing on the area that you're in on the map. So what I used to do in search and rescue was I would make these maps like this. I would take a section out of that map, I would laminate it, and then if I could find any kind of site maps to go along with it, then I would put them together. This is a nice, tight, compact, easy way to do it, but even then, if you don't have a laminator or you can't get one laminated, you can always just stick one in one of these page protectors. And if it was pouring rain, you could always tape this off, and that way you don't have to worry about the ink running on something if you printed it out yourself. Now, like I said, what I would do is I would take snapshots basically on the computer. I would put them into, a format like this, and that's what I would depend on. But you don't necessarily have to do that. Now today with our phones, you can take advantage of things like satellite imagery from Google Earth. It may not be a live feed like I had access to, but you can still check out areas, take snapshots of it, download it to your phone, create a file folder in your photos, and then when the time comes, you've got what you need. There's also the GPS apps that are on your phone. You can take snapshots of, land features, roads, etc., points of interest. And then there's also apps like for hunters and for hikers that you can download that will give you, property lines and show you, hey, this is private property. Which, disclaimer, I'm not encouraging you to break the law. What I am saying is that you have the ability, because of technology, to kind of survey the areas, potential areas that you might have to go through, and you can do that utilizing technology. Now, if the SHTF does happen, then, hey, do what you got to do. Just be careful and don't get caught. Now, along with these maps, I also make sure that I have, something to write on or write in the rain. I have pencils and pens and grease markers and Sharpies and stuff like that. But you're also going to need things like map tools. I make sure that I have all of them, including a protractor. I've got one in 50 thousandths, I got one in 25 thousandths, I've got one in 24 thousandths. And I just got used to doing that in SAR because it depended on what agency I was working with and what format they actually preferred to use. I also like the ability to write notes down while I'm out doing my recon, so I like having a write in the rain. And this one's pretty nice actually because it actually has a window in the front of it, so you can fold your map up, put it in here, and then you can use this to as your map board. The next thing that you're gonna need is a compass, obviously. If you're doing map work, get a good, reliable compass. This is an MC2 Global. It's pretty much the standard nowadays for civilian life, if you will. I've got mine rigged up with some things like a pace counter, pace beads, and my emergency whistle. But you don't have to get as fancy as that. Just make sure that you get a good quality compass. Now, a lot of people, they use GPS on their phones, but I'll be honest with you, I don't really fully trust that. So I have myself a Garmin. This is the exact model that I used when I was in search and rescue. When I retired, I had to find a used one, but I was just used to using this particular GPS, and I really like it. Something that you might want to consider, a GPS where you have a touch screen. When it's raining or it's cold or it's super hot, the touch screen can actually, it can mess with you a little bit. Back in the day, we actually had toggles that we would use on our GPSs, and I really liked that because it wasn't affected by the elements. But if you choose to go with a touchscreen, make sure that you test it in inclement weather because it can be incredibly frustrating. All right, the next thing that I consider extremely important to have is the ability to see, especially at long distances. Now, this is a Vortex monocular. It is the Solo RT. It has 8 times magnification, and it also has range finding capability. This thing is extremely lightweight and compact, and I just really like it because it can disappear into a pocket. Now that doesn't mean that you can't use Old Faithful, you know, a good set of binoculars and then possibly a rangefinder to go with it. But what I really like about having a monocular is it's just so easy. It's compact, it's lightweight, and it replaces both of these things. And before you say these things are ridiculous expensive, I mean, this one's really not. Actually, this is less money than this pair of binos and rangefinder. I think I paid around $160 for this. Vortex has excellent glass. I really like this. I've been happy with it. I actually saw a couple of reviews online here recently. I just looked it up just to see, you know, what's out there. A couple of people were complaining about the focus being too hard to move, but I mean, mine's definitely not. The image focus itself is really simple, and so is the reticle. A couple other people were saying that they didn't have the ability to bend this back. I have no issues with that. I don't know, every company has lemons, I guess, but what I'm saying is this has been awesome for me. This is actually probably one of the things that I use the most. If I need to scan an area with it, need to settle in, figure out, you know, hey, this is a choke point and I need to observe the area, having something like this, oh my God. Believe me, it's the kind of thing you'll thank God that you have when you use it. I mean, there's a lot of things that are on this table right now that I would say like, hey, you don't absolutely have to have, but I would say this is critical. This is definitely one of those things that I would put into your kit. Whether there is societal collapse, martial law, or just a societal breakdown in general, the very last thing that you want to be is stuck or detained. If you want to see a video of how to move through your area without being caught, let me know in the comments. I mean, the idea is to make it home safely, and this is where it starts. Before you even step outside or go anywhere, preparation is what it's all about. So if you're hunting smack digging the video, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and until next time, y'all, keep fueling those fires.